Hey, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for episode number 44 of Cage Side Convos. I am Rick Huntsman.
And this is Quince. What's up?
We're coming to you guys live from the new American Top Team Watertown location. For those of you jumping on that are wondering where we are, if you guys have been missing classes and stuff, pop over to our Facebook page or Instagram page. We have the address posted there. Pretty excited about the new space.
Beautiful spot. This is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
And the turnover, as we were talking before, it was quick.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like it happened like that. And it's spacious, location's great.
Yeah.
Plenty of parking.
Yeah.
Looks good in here.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Thank you. We the crew showed up big time, man. I was telling you we were shut down Wednesday, so last Wednesday. So it's Tuesday for those of you that are watching later after the fact. So today's Tuesday. So last Wednesday we were forced to close the gym because the building that we were in was no longer suitable to occupy as per the city of Watertown, unfortunately. And so about 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, we started moving mats, and then you came through on Thursday, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Thursday afternoon. Thursday, helped us move a ton of shit, which was awesome. So from Wednesday afternoon, Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, we were holding classes in here already. So we had, almost a 24-hour turnaround.
Sure.
Which was crazy and
wild.
Pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, I know we're talking abstractly because all they can see is this back wall here, but you're just gonna have to take our word for it, or just stop down.
Absolutely, Please do swing in and check us out. So it's all good things, but that's why we don't have the cage in the background anymore. We haven't got that quite set up yet, but all good things have been coming. It's kind of why we weren't here last week. You and I had planned on doing the combo last week, and then life happened as it did, so we just kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Right? So we're in the new space, pretty excited to see what happens moving forward. And so this week, jumping right into the topic after a short segue of silence.
Yeah.
Interestingly, as we just filled the first few minutes of a lot of noise, this week we're going to focus on silence. Basically, one of the points of meditation, right? So there's various different kinds of meditation you can engage in, but one focus of meditation is to quiet our mind, right? And oddly enough, the irony is that once you've quieted your mind, as soon as you realize you've quieted your mind, you kind of lose that, right? So kind of almost like being in flow state, right? You hit that flow of your meditation, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, wow, this is really cool. I'm being completely silent.
Or when you're in a dream,
and
realize you're dreaming, and get excited and snap yourself out of it.
Absolutely. So doing, I think, a focused meditation like that is very, very difficult. They have monks that spend their entire lives learning to quiet their minds in that nature, right? I'm approaching silence today a little bit differently. What I tried to do is have everything around me be quiet, and I let my thoughts be loud. I let my feelings be loud. And what I found, I started doing kind of my version of this when I was really dealing with my depression, my alcoholism a couple years ago, kind of the start of day one for myself, right? So I would just I would be quiet. There'd be no TV on, there's no music, there's no nothing, and I'm just there, and I'm existing, and I'm letting the thoughts run through my mind, right? And what I would try to do over the course of like 2 or 3 days is I would try to find the consistency in my thought patterns. And that's what allowed me to understand like what was real, what I really felt, what was really my opinion about something versus what were my emotions telling me at the time, because it's really easy. I think everybody's been inclined throughout their lives to react in anger, to react in sadness, or to react in guilt, or to react, desperately or anxiously, right? And I think that, we've talked before about emotional discipline and stuff.
Right.
And when there's a lot going on, when there's a lot of calamity, right, you lose kind of track of your own heartbeat, of your own kind of moral compass too.
Moral compass, sense of self.
Sense of,
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the world is full of stimulation.
Yeah.
And this is a constant every day as soon as we wake up, to the point where we don't even realize, how loud, the cars are passing by, when I wake up in the morning living downtown. How many times my phone vibrates or beeps, goes off when somebody hits me up, or email, or, daily news or whatever. This just becomes regular everyday stuff. And I think, some of the things that affect us negatively are with that overstimulation. We have this anxiousness that builds up, and anxiety that kind of builds up, because I think it causes stress if you overstimulate, mentally or emotionally. Not only does it take effect in forms of stress, but that also affects the body as well. The mind certainly affects the body. So it's coming to realize all of these moments that goes unnoticed during the day, and the importance of that, and importance of this mindfulness, because I think we absorb this environmental noise constantly. I was just talking on the radio the other day about Messina School District, not too far from here, but they're noticing that their kids are, they're stressed. Like, we're living in stressful times, due to whether it's the political scheme, or whether it's the COVID and regulations and just not knowing what's next. But they're noticing that it does take a toll on the students at a younger age. So a committee got together and agreed to, they want to apply a mindfulness program, which it seems common sense because we're in 2020, and mindfulness has been a practice in philosophy and religion and all these other things on the eastern, the eastern side of the world. And it's made its way over here slowly, and you hear it in conversation, seen it in a couple of articles, but never really mainstream. And now we're northern New York, and Messina is talking about, we don't know what else to do. And so now they're utilizing this, and they're bringing in experts from the Holistic Life Foundation, that I think is out of Albany, but so they can practice things like mindfulness, so they can be aware of their breath, their thought, their own thoughts, their own emotions. Because, if we're running around every day and not realizing how we're affected by all this stimuli, imagine, younger kids, what they're doing when they never even had the chance to have these sort of conversations before.
Absolutely. Don Rogers says hello. Hello, Don. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for chiming in.
What's up, Don?
So what's interesting to me is that, especially when you look at mindfulness through like the Western lens, it says, what is mindfulness? And I think, if I had to ask somebody to paint a picture of mindfulness, or to draw a picture of mindfulness, they would draw somebody, in a monk robe, sitting legs crossed, home, all zen out and stuff, right? But I think mindfulness is much more simple than that. And even when you start reading into Eastern philosophies and stuff, I was telling you earlier, I started reading a little bit more kind of like Zen-based philosophy and stuff. Mindfulness is not it's not the absence of thought necessarily. Like, that's one focus of meditation, but mindfulness is simply being aware of yourself, being aware of your emotions, being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your inclination to react a certain way. And also being aware of when you are taking in too much. Right? We don't necessarily need to add to what we're doing all the time, but a lot of it, and there's a few different quotes from a couple of different Stoic philosophers, and I'm sure other philosophers throughout the ages, but it's not the adding to, but it's the cutting away of the fat that increases the productivity and the goodness, I guess, of our life. So this notion of mindfulness, and I think it has a little bit of a stigma too, because everybody thinks that they know what it is, and once you start studying it again, it's not this 20 minutes a day of sitting in absolute silence and being all zenned out and stuff, but it could be even just a few moments of the day, which I've started doing actually, is telling myself, be silent, and I'll just sit and I'll feel, and understand what's going on not only around me, but I'll appreciate the quiet, and I'll understand what's going on myself. How's my body reacting? How am I breathing? You know,
Right.
Am I filling my lungs up when I breathe, or am I just open mouth breathing and not thinking about it?
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
stuff like that.
You know, and it's so interesting how the mind-body connection works when it comes to stuff like that. Because early on, actually, no, this still even happens to this day when I go, and even this morning, sit in silence, sit in meditation, and yeah, my legs were crossed.
Sure.
Yeah, I was had the fingers. But
aligning your chakras.
aligning my chakras, getting in my Zen mode.
Sure.
But how the body reacts. So of course, I'm thinking about fixing my posture. I'm thinking about my breath. I'm trying to be aware of the thoughts that pop in. At first they're moving quick, and then you try and slow it down a little bit and try and separate what thoughts are your own, what thoughts are outside, stimuli that makes its way in. But stuff like I'll get an itch on my face.
Yep.
Or somewhere else, and I'm like, why the fuck? Why would that be happening? And so at first, earlier on, I'd always, scratch this itch, this random itch that would always come up, until I learned more about it. And this is it psychosomatic, or is that what it is? But the mind and body connection, the little anxieties releasing themselves in different ways that want your attention, that want this sort of attention. So the fact that it's not just me that gets this itch, or this sort of discomfort, this is just a part of it. So now when I get the itch and I recognize it, I'm aware of it, and then I take my attention elsewhere, and it goes away. It goes away. It's kind of
awesome,
it is awesome.
That's
it is
awesome.
And it's just a little example though of the power that you do have. First and foremost, the power of the mind, right?
Yeah.
But the power that you also play in that awareness to the mind. I feel like the awareness and the practice of it is like putting on the reins, of the mind. So, that's the type of stuff that stands out to me, and it seems so insignificant, but it, has this larger role altogether.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Corey Russell, thank you. Thanks for chiming in. Appreciate the kind words. We always enjoy the conversation, man. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. And then Ebony apparently says hi.
Ebony? Ebony, what up?
So
hello
awesome.
to the whole Rogers family.
Yeah.
If you guys are watching.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's her little girl.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
cool.
yes.
Good deal, man. Love the shout outs. Yeah, thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to tune in and to allow us to break the silence with you.
Corey, what up, bro?
And it's interesting you talk about the itches that will pop up, because I know I feel that myself, especially most notably when I'm in bed at night, when I get just super, super comfortable and I feel like I'm starting to fall asleep, and then those things pop up.
Right.
And so what I've been actually, the past couple of weeks, it's really beneficial for me that you talk about that today, because I've been trying to figure out exactly why it's happening, and I've been trying to figure out mentally, okay, how can I circumvent this? How can I deal with it? Because I know it's psychosomatic, but I haven't been able to quite find the connection. But understanding it as an anxious reaction to whatever, that might help me mentally wrap my mind around it a little bit. And in the silence of night, I might be able to explore that a little bit and maybe conquer that myself too. So I'm pretty excited to try that now.
Yeah, and it's just as because like I said, the first however many times I'd always itch it thinking that would end it. But that, of course, would take me out of my concentration in what I was trying to accomplish. But having read it and to know that other people experience it and that you can get through it is like someone telling you, there's light at the end of the tunnel when it's dark. Yeah. So it helps you keep pushing, just that little bit further. So you'll have to let me know next time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
because it could end up just being like fleas or something. Bed bugs.
I checked already. That was my first thing. I checked to make sure that wasn't the case. So,
shit.
Oh, that's funny, man. And I think so. Experience, right? The notion of don't touch the stove because it's hot. Well, you're still going to touch the stove because you have to know for yourself. You have to know what hot means. Two, you have to know exactly what it feels like. Three, you have to know whether it's worth it or not, too, to not touch the stove, right? I don't know what benefit you could gain from touching a hot stove, but we all do it, and obviously that's the metaphor we go to because it's the easiest one. But until I experience at least a little bit of success with the mental techniques kind of that we were talking about, or some of the things that I'd like to play around with, until I experience for myself a little bit of that success or a little bit of that understanding, it's not going to be completely real to me, So experiences stuff, or experiencing, sitting in silence for, the day. Sitting in silence for the day and not touching your phone and not turning on the TV, or, just laying on your floor and focusing on your emotions and thinking about how you feel until you experience the kind of calmness that can bring after you embrace that discomfort, right? Until you experience that, it seems like no way, man. Because think about, you start feeling anxious, how easy it is to pick up your phone, how easy it is to turn on the TV. How many of us turn on music to comfort us? Almost every single person that I've ever met, man. What is that? Alex Slurry tuning in. What up, brother? Beautiful day out there. Hope you guys are out enjoying it. I think we're both going to go out and enjoy it in our own way after after this combo, huh?
I think so,
Yeah.
for at least for a little bit.
So, and speaking of experiences going out, it could be 70 degrees outside, but that don't mean shit until you've actually experienced what 70 degrees and sunny means. Not to mention the, middle of November in northern New York, for that to be the case.
Yeah, that's just a different type of appreciation.
Yeah.
Because, come, what's March and April when it's 44 and we're out there with short sleeves and shorts on.
Yeah. But again, that's the perfect example of what experience can bring to the table, because you can only speak from your own experience, you can only understand from your own experience.
Right.
And once you've experienced actual silence and you connect to the moment, one of the things I actually thought about quite a bit when I was writing down notes and meditating on this topic and stuff was when we went up to Barnes Corners with the ladies.
Yeah, watching the sunset?
A couple months ago, we were out in that field, and then we all took that moment and we just stopped.
Right.
And it's almost transcendental, and that's one of the most powerful feelings I think that you can feel is when you really connect with nature. Right. And all of us, I think, have had our own experiences with that before, and all the, had those experiences since, especially like you when you're running in Thompson Park and you go and you look at the sunrise and everything in the morning, and you spend that few minutes, but you breathe, and I think there's a moment when you go completely silent and you, that moment extends into an eternity. Like there's that brief moment where it clicks, the sound of the wind or the sound of the grass or the sound of the bugs or the sound of the earth itself. Like you can feel that, and it heightens in your mind.
Yeah.
That book about improv that I passed along to you, the process there.
Yeah.
One of the things he talks about is when you're developing an improv scene, is you focus on something until you heighten the experience and make it grow until a transformation occurs. Right, so you heighten and you expand on an experience. And when you're doing improv and you actually don't have any props or anything, you have to make the audience believe you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
If you're picking up a rock and you're looking at it, you can't just go, "Oh, this is a rock that I have in my hand." You have to make the audience believe it. So in order for them to believe it, you have to grow that scene and you have to grow that experience.
Right.
So you feel it and you experience it, you expand on it until a transformation occurs. Until something naturally happens in that scene that pushes the scene forward.
Right.
But I think we can take that moment, the quote at the end of that book that just fucking blows me away and gives me goosebumps every time I think about it is, we should live then as our students do and expand on a scene always until a transformation occurs. You focus on this moment, on this one little thing until you change.
Right.
And that's the point of meditation, is to achieve a transformation. And then how long can we hold on to that feeling, right? So that Q&A you shared with me over the summer, those philosophers that were talking about meditation and stuff, and they said the point of that meditation is to change yourself and then hold on to that for as long as you can.
Yeah. And what's interesting is because when you think of meditation, you think of that transformation, like, oh, that's what I got to get to.
Right.
And it will come in time, and it will come in our own time, in our own individual time and practice. But it's all of that. What I don't want to skip over is the weight of that discomfort that we have to get through, get through, or to get even, because the transformation doesn't even necessarily come after that.
Yeah.
After that, you might break into that little space in which you're talking about, in which if you feel the moment, there's really, it's just you and your awareness of what is happening right now, and then you gradually expand that freeness, that freedom. I think other people might define it differently. And from nothing, seemingly comes that transformation. And that's something that I can't really define for anyone else. I couldn't define for you,
right?
But what I do think we all go through is that initial discomfort. You're talking about sitting down for a day in silence. Trying to do that for 24 hours. I went to high school with this dude who, he was, very athletic and outgoing, and he ended up being, he owns a gym, right? Power lifter. And out of nowhere, it seemed like he switched his whole style into, now he gives 2-week training sessions. So they're what do you call? They're silence retreats.
Yeah.
1 week, 2 weeks, like no phone, no talking, anything. They have these set routines that they do, and this is out in Miami, Florida. And I was just like, I can't imagine what it would take to get through 2 weeks. I mean, probably the first 3 days, 1, 2, 3 days, would be the heaviest.
Yep.
And after that, you can kind of recreate that moment and gradually build on it. But it's tough to know where to start, especially if you have never been able to get through that discomfort before. But to know that everybody goes through that is, a super important place to start.
Oh, absolutely, man. And that's, so much of what we talk about is hinged on embracing discomfort. Whether you want to get physically stronger, right? Even if you want to learn more, if you want to sit down and you want to read a book, every single book I ever read, there's shit in there that I just don't understand.
Right.
And a lot of times, that kind of makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, well, I have to understand everything that I'm reading. But the reality is you don't. You get through the discomfort of not understanding it, and then you revisit it later, and maybe you'll understand it better. Because a lot of things have to be approached holistically, which is everything all together and how every little part of it works together. So not understanding one chapter might be okay, because by the time you get to the end of the book, if you go back and revisit that, you think, okay, I understand now how these pieces fit in a little bit. Maybe you just don't understand it, and it's not your time to understand it. Right. I sit there when I'm reading. I'll sit there with my phone next to me, and I'll look words up as they come through, and it breaks the rhythm of reading, and it's uncomfortable. It doesn't make the experience super enjoyable all the time. Right. If 3 times a page I'm stopping to look up a fucking word I don't know. I did that when I was reading William James, American philosopher. I didn't understand a lot of that shit, and I had to look it up and look it up and look it up, and then it was super uncomfortable. But by and large, I got to the point where I started understanding what he was trying to say, even without understanding the words, and I started being able to figure out what some of the words meant and stuff. And that was super cool because I started understanding his approach a little more holistically. Not that I understood every single thing that I walked away with, but I got a better feeling of what was going on. And that was a really cool experience in discomfort too. Because I like to just sit down and, maybe it's a little bit of ego too. I like to just sit down and read and know every single word that I'm reading. Right. Because that means I'm smart. Right. But
would it mean you're getting smarter?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you're not being challenged, if you're not going through that discomfort, you're not learning, you're not getting stronger. And in this case, when we're looking at silence, right there, especially now, you talked about how overstimulated we can be. When you're without your phone for a while, because we've all made ourselves readily available 24 hours a day. If you text somebody, or if somebody texts you, you have it in your mind that they need to respond immediately, or that I need to respond immediately. right? Some of us, obviously, some people don't give a shit about responding immediately, which is fine, you know. But when you set that down and there's that silence, you know, it's uncomfortable. Or what's going on in the world? You know, I have to know. I have to know. I have to know. Like, why? Why do you have to know right now? What can you affect? If somebody's texting me, it's not that important. You know, if somebody wants something from me, they'll call me. And my phone doesn't ring. You know what I mean? People just text, you know, or hit you up on Instagram or hit you up on Facebook and stuff. Like, the further you have to go, the more apps you have to open on your phone to get to a message, the less important that shit is.
Right.
You know?
Right. And, you know, and it's wild because we know, you know, we're well aware, and certainly the developers, these app makers are well aware of this biochemical reaction to these things. Yeah. You know, and it's not like they created this. They didn't create it. They're just they just wean their way into the loophole, the biochemical loophole, because oftentimes that silence, it does, and it can bring, especially if you're not practicing it, it can bring negativity. It can bring negative thoughts. It can bring up things that we're consciously or subconsciously pushing away on a regular, everyday basis. And that's what that discomfort is when you first start to, you know, move through these own practices. And that's the stuff that, you know, we continually talk about having to embrace, having to come face to face with these things that aren't going to go anywhere. Yeah. You know, but also what makes silence so hard. I mean, you would think that to sit in silence would be easy, would be simple, but we're inundated with information and stimuli daily. And I believe that, like, because we absorb it in, all of these thoughts and energies and emotions, and like, just because you have them don't always mean they're yours, which is a crazy concept, but I think that's how we work as humans, because even though we're talking in the negative sense, there's also still a positive and a powerful sense in our ability to be aware and to connect and to empathize and to do more than one thing at a time. So, like, these are all superpowers in a way if harnessed and practiced properly, but if left just to the noise, you know, they become burdensome. They become burdensome. And so I think the first step is to be able to dive into that discomfort and separate what are your emotions, or what are just the emotions that, you know, came from that the news broadcast, you know, or the interaction that you had with someone at work who maybe was having a shitty day, and it kind of, you know, put you in a shitty mood. Why did that put you in a shitty mood? Somebody else's shitty day. But, you know, silence is a great opportunity to separate that sort, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's I really like that notion that just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's necessarily yours. And that kind of loops back around to being able to understand subjective versus objective reality, right? So the way, I kind of initially looked at it is subjective is emotional, is how I feel about a situation. Objective is what actually happened, right? I stubbed my toe, okay. Subjectively, ow, that fucking hurt, and I'm kind of mad because I did that, right? Objectively is I hit my foot, and the reality is I'm no worse for the wear. Like that, it's gonna bleed maybe a little bit, or it's gonna be sore for a couple of days, but really, I'm fine. Right? So now, do I respond with being fine in the forefront of my mind, or do I respond to the pain? Now, objectively, there's a certain matter of care that needs to be taken of that, so it doesn't get worse, or I don't have problems down the line. But it's okay that I'm hurt, and it's okay that I don't want to be hurt, but also I still have to act productively to it, right? Sure. So that's one examination of subjective versus objective. But another one, in the way that you put it, and I really, really like, which I hadn't thought about yet, was, subjectively, I'm being inundated with ways to feel. I'm being inundated with being anxious about the political climate in the country, right? I'm being, inundated with all this data, right? Whether it's training information, like, I want to look a certain way, I want to perform a certain way, I want to eat a certain way, right? All of these things. And then if I never take the time to be quiet and let all this process through my mind, I'll never objectively know what I actually want.
Right.
What are my real goals? And I think a lot of what you see is people pinballing from one set of goals to another. I'm going to do this next week. I'm going to do this next week. I'm going to do this. Because they've never taken that time to sit in silence and understand objectively, what are my actual goals? Who do I want to be? How do I want to perform? How do I want to present myself? You know, at the end of the day, you know, in the beginning of the day, it's silent, it's just us. At the end of the day, it's silent, it's just us.
Right.
Who do I want to be in those moments?
Right.
You know, and then you have to act accordingly in between.
Yeah.
Right. But if you don't ever take that time to be silent and to turn off all of the stimulation around you and just let that shit process through your mind,
Right.
you know, it's difficult to pull the trigger on a course.
Absolutely. You know, and it's almost like with all the stimulation, with all the information, with all the misinformation, and everything going on around us, we are puppeted throughout our day.
Sure.
You know, we are puppeted through these emotions. We are puppeted through these norms. But silence almost clips those strings. Clips those strings, you know, and we got to learn how to move this shit for ourselves. You know, we got to learn how to think a little bit more for ourselves. And it's possible, you know. I don't know what it is within us. I can't speak on that further than my own experience, but there's something within us that seems like it knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something within the core, you know, something like, you know, it knows, it comes in thoughts. It could be randomly, it could be through practice, meditative practices. It comes in dreams, you know, it comes as ideas in the shower or whatever place in which you can turn it off, you know, wherever that might be. And I mean, I guess I'll have to look into it further, but something seems like it knows who you are, what you are. And so when you can clear all that brush away and you can give that voice a bigger platform, it almost seems like now when you move throughout your day, it tones shit down.
Yeah.
You know, it tones it down, you know, and I think that's where we start to change our mental health, you know, in a positive way, in a constructive way, and in a intentional and purposeful way. And I think that's at the point that we can utilize this power for good rather than it, you know, being that burden.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And I kind of, I'm going to take a piece of that. I'm going to tie it into another thing. So you talked about, you know, kind of, we're focusing on now discovering who we are, right? Cutting the strings away, not being puppeted. What are our general emotions? What are our genuine desires? How do we want to be? Where does our morality guide us, right? The kind of person we want to present ourselves as. And something I've been thinking about a lot, and actually, you know, probably over the course of about the last year and a half, this has become more and more profound to me. The way I'm going to put it now, I've just kind of been able to formulate as we've been talking, but the kind of person I want to be is when I say something, is it doesn't require a response. No matter what I say can be met with silence, right? Kind of what I mean by that, like a really easy example is if you say I love you to somebody, how do you feel when they don't say it back?
Right. Good point. You know, and that depends on the situation, depends on where that I love you is coming from.
Right. But it doesn't. Because I have to always be prepared for my whatever I say or whatever I do to be met with silence, right? And to not elicit a reaction. Now, it depends on why I'm saying it, right? Because if I'm saying it to get a reaction, then it's not genuinely how I feel, right? Now, if I'm saying it because that's how I say it, that's that's objectively who I am, right? Then it doesn't require a reaction. So then the situation doesn't matter, because in every single situation, it has to be coming from who I want to be, coming from Jen. You know, I've thought about this. I know this is how I feel. If I tell you I love you, it doesn't matter what you say back. You don't have to say it back because I'm not saying it for you. I'm saying because I want you to know, regardless of how you interpret it, regardless of how you feel, right? So going back to the Stoic notion of once you fire the arrow, if whether or not it hits the target is none of your concern, right? I've done everything I can to prepare for this moment. I know this is how I feel. This is what I'm going to say, whether it's to a friend, whether it's to a romantic situation, whether it's to a family member, maybe you've been estranged from, right? There's a lot of anxiety because when we say it, like, are they going to say it back? Well, it doesn't matter, you know, so kind of when you said it depends on the situation and stuff. For me, it depends on, you know, why I'm saying it, yes. Right. But then outside of that, the situation is irrelevant because in every single situation, I've gone through the uncomfortable reps of deciding this can be met with silence.
Right.
This, because that, you know, ultimately we feel that's a negative reaction.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess I misspoke, but I was trying to get across the fact that you're right. You know, if it needs to be genuine, if it is genuine, if it comes from a genuine place, you don't need any response back.
Right.
But I can think of times where, you know, I've been on the phone, you know, talking to, you know, whoever my significant other was, and they can hear that I am with other people. They can hear, you know, she can hear that there were other girls around, something like that. And she'll say it. Yeah. You know, and she'll call just to say it. And, you know, this is me being aware. And I'm like, you're not saying it because you love me. Yeah. You're saying it because you want me to say it so the people around can hear. Yeah. You know, and that's what you're going for. Yeah. And sometimes, and it's subtleties like this that, like, people might not work out, you know, because if she can't be honest with herself on why she's saying it, then she's going to continue to fight for her right to say it. Yeah. Because she, you know, and she's going to be hurt because she didn't get that, you know, that loop, that feedback loop that she thought she was going to get from it. Yeah. So, you know, very important to speak from that genuineness that we do have. Well,
and also, I mean, especially in that situation, it's symptomatic of a bigger problem. Right. There are trust issues in the relationship that need to be worked out, you know, and that, you know, if you're just chasing that, like you said, you're just chasing that feedback, you know, you're chasing that reassurance, right? And you're doing it through inexact means, right? So if you're, well, I'm going to say this so he'll comfort me, instead of saying, I need you to comfort me right now. Right. You know, one of the most powerful things is when you have someone say, like, I'm not feeling good about myself right now. I need to be comforted. Right. Because I'm going to approach that differently than if I figure out that somebody is seeking that comfort and, you know, being a pain in the ass about it, I guess, to be, you know, kind of vulgar, you know. But,
because you feel manipulated.
Right.
You feel manipulated.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't do that shit. We're together for a reason. If you tell me this is what you need, I want to be the person to give that to you. So if this is what you're going through, let's go through it. Right. You know, I would rather fight about this honestly than bullshit around about it and let it, you know, eat away at the relationship.
Yeah. and it's wild because it's not like everybody's doing it intentionally. Right. You know, we could be just a bunch of unconscious people running around, running into each other. But even with that unawareness of how and why we do it, doesn't mean it still doesn't have those lasting effects, those lasting negative, effects that stem from it that are created by it.
And just because we don't know why we do it doesn't mean that it's legitimate for us to do it.
Right.
You know, so
it doesn't justify it.
Right. So that, you know, it's our responsibility. One, it's our responsibility to surround us with people who are going to tell us that that's what we're doing. Yeah. Then it becomes our responsibility to figure out, okay, is that exactly what I'm doing? If so, how do I feel about that? Yes. If I feel negatively about that, what are the steps I take to change it? Yes. You know what I mean? And sometimes people are going to tell us that we're being shitty just because they didn't like what we said, you know? And so I'll ask people sometimes, you know, like, are you mad at me because what I said was mean? Or are you mad at me because what I said was the truth and you don't want to deal with it? You know? Sometimes it's because they thought I was being mean. Right. Which is, okay, that's on me. If I'm just being mean, that's my responsibility to fix. But if what I said is true, and you're like, well, you didn't need to say that, maybe I didn't, but it's true.
Right.
You know, and now it's up to you to deal with it.
You know, and it seems like, you know, I'm listening subjectively and objectively, and I are trying to, and you know, and it might seem like we're just bouncing from topic to topic to topic, but you know what we are, what it seems to me that we're doing is we're peeling back layers of our daily lives, our daily interactions with not only the people around us, but our daily interactions with ourselves, which can quickly and easily get convoluted if people aren't doing this self-work, aren't going through practices of silence in whatever way is, you know, is applicable to you. You know, this is the stuff that we are trying to separate, you know, peel off and get rid of and get down to the core of the conversations, core of our needs. And that, I mean, this is in large part why, you know, this is the topic today. You know, silence is the topic today. So, I mean, I hope I didn't bring you too far from what we were just talking about.
No.
But I just didn't want people to get lost, you know, in the direction that we were going, because
Absolutely.
I love it, you know, I love it. And
I think, you know, I think all of this, you know, we just kind of focused on disagreements in relationships and you know, dishonesty with people or attention-seeking behavior. We talked about a lot of the stuff that we've all experienced, we've all run into. You know, people say like toxic relationships, negative relationships, coping mechanisms, all these things, right? One of the most uncomfortable things that can happen in a conversation with somebody is for you two to get mad at each other and then to go silent. If there is more uncertainty, if there's a more anxiety-inducing state than in a romantic relationship where you don't know if you feel like the future of the relationship hinges on the next thing that's said, and you both sit in silence, how uncomfortable is that?
right.
I feel that is a universal experience, and I feel that every single person that's listening can identify with that.
Sure.
Right? And one of the things, one of the truths in that is that we need that silence to figure things out. And this is why when I've started arguing with people, especially you know, especially with Rachel, you know, especially when we start having a heated conversation, I'll say, I love you now, I love you at the end, let's figure this shit out. So now, even though there's silence in the conversation, it's an agreement that we are figuring it out for ourselves.
Right.
We're filtering it out. We're separating subjective and objective. We're deciding how this coincides with our morality, how this coincides with what we want for the future of the relationship.
Right.
Especially her, she's someone that's prone to being very quiet. And it took me a long time to get used to that. And one of the things that happens is you can strangle. People say like, you're smothering me, right? And if you're using the silence productively, right, that it's warranted, and you need the quiet to figure things out. And I think that our need to have constant reassurance or constant stimulation or constant engagement, right, will force an unready reaction from somebody. If they're not confident in what they want to say, they're going to protect themselves. You know, kind of an example that works for this is probably about 10 years ago. I got laid off from this job I had, but I got a job offer from another branch within that company. And I went down there, interviewed, and they offered me the job. And I was like, look, I want to think about this. This is actually right when I was moving out to this area. And I didn't know what I was going to do. The girl I was with at the time, we had just decided to, go our separate ways. And so there's a lot of change going on in my life at the time. And so I told the guy, I was like, look, I need like 2 weeks to think about this. And the dude called me 4 or 5 days into it. And at this time, I'm out at my buddy's house in Boston, binge drinking and trying to figure out what the hell's going on in my life.
Right.
Just got fired, going through a breakup, whatever, dealing with how I was dealing with it. Yeah. And, he's calling me, I need an answer because I hadn't heard from me in like 3 days. And I was like, look, man, I told you I need some time to think about it. He called me the next day again. And, I was like, hey, if you need an answer now, then the answer is no. you know, because he forced an answer out of me, and I was protecting myself and doing what I knew, you know, not jumping into more uncertainty, you know. So maybe not the perfect example, but I think that it works well to understand what we have a tendency to do with relationships and stuff.
Sure.
You know, you text someone that you're interested in romantically and they don't respond, right? That's the end of the world, especially in the beginning stages of the relationship. You know what I mean? Because we don't appreciate the silence. We don't appreciate the fact that they have other shit to do, you know? So understanding how to appreciate that silence in a conversation, right? And it's super, super, super uncomfortable. But once you're willing to go through the discomfort of it and understand, and later on you can talk about the silence.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, why didn't you say anything?
Right.
Because I'm trying to figure it out. And you reach that mutual understanding of silence isn't the end. And once you've established that silence isn't the end, then it's not uncomfortable anymore.
Sure.
Then you understand it, you know?
Absolutely. And like you said, you know, in time you can go and you can talk about that silence and revisit it.
Right.
But you know what you can't do is take back what you said in a moment of not being ready.
Yeah.
You can't take back what you said when you go to one of your already preset responses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have been built up over time, and we use that preset response, you know, with someone new, someone that we care about, you know. Yeah. And this is the thing, man. It usually happens with the people we care about because that's the shit that cuts to our core, and that is what we try to protect.
Yeah.
And that's why we have all these presets that we respond to or that we respond with. And, you know, the silence, it can be used as a weapon. You can weaponize the silence, you know, and so, you know, I don't want to dismiss that. I whether I've done it myself or whether I've experienced it or just know it to happen, that does exist. But silence in, you know, the need, the understanding that I want to be better for this, for whatever conversation, or interaction is going on, whatever I have to respond to make I want to be better for it.
Yeah.
And I want to trust if someone else is silent on the other side, I want to trust and respect that that's what they're doing too.
Right.
You know, I respect if you need time to think about it, if you need time to figure out how you want to come across, if you need time to understand really where you're at, I respect that. I understand it. You know, oftentimes I need that too. Yeah. And then to you know, reconvene as, you know, our better selves or thought out selves or in touch, in tune, aware selves. Yeah. The conversation, the outcome, even if it's not what you want, you know, it's going to be what is needed.
Yeah.
It's going to be what is needed. And that's why, you know, these silences are important. And that's why it's shitty to utilize those powers and these opportunities as a weapon, you know, to weaponize that. So, you know, there can be blurred lines in there, but ultimately we're using, you know, the silence, you know, to become more self-aware of the situation.
Absolutely. And what's a huge benefit to purposely using silence, right? And understanding, so, you know, before we speak, we've already gone through the iterations and we know that this is truly how I feel, right? Your silence doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Right.
If someone tries to weaponize it against you, it's irrelevant because, not because I don't understand that you're using it to try to get a reaction out of me and stuff. And even if I do understand that you're trying to get a reaction out of me, it's fine because I've said what I objectively know is my truth. However you react to it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
You know, obviously it does have something to do with you, but it's not going to knock me off course from who I want to be. Right. You know, I don't have to respond to your negative reaction. I don't have to respond to your negative response, right? And this helps. So, wow, fuck! I love the Mark Twain quote: "Never argue with a fool, because onlookers won't be able to tell the difference."
Right.
You know.
I thought that was a Jay-Z quote, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
Never argue with fools because people from a distance can't tell who is who.
Yeah,
Jack that.
Mark Twain is called the Jay-Z of the late 1800s. I've always said that about Mark Twain.
It's true. Yeah.
So, oh God, no. We'll have to go figure out who. Then it's going to be somebody that neither one of us even thought of.
Right.
From like
probably.
the 1200s. But yeah, so my inclination more and more, especially if I don't really know somebody, or if I think somebody is, not. I guess there's no way to say it without sounding arrogant, but if they're not worth engaging with, like my default status is being silent.
Yeah.
Obviously you might not get that vibe from me and anybody here that's listening, because as soon as you got here today, I was like, yo, Quince, what's up? Just like fucking rapid firing all this shit off, man. I was, really excited to get to see you and get to chat with you and stuff, but you and I have a rapport, and I know that you're someone who's worthwhile to engage with, you know what I mean? But for the most part, and more, especially as I practice it and I appreciate the silence, is my default state is being quiet and just listening and figuring it out. And I had to look up and see who this quote was by. It's attributed to Gandhi, but it's speak only if it improves upon the silence.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. The phrase is so commonly used, awkward silence. Everybody says, oh, I hate awkward silences. I hate awkward silence. I don't think there's a such thing as an awkward silence. In that context, because from those silences, I hear everything. I hear and understand that if that silence is awkward for you, there are things that aren't sitting right. Within yourself, within myself, that need to be said. Yeah. So now that silence to you feels awkward. To me, it doesn't feel awkward. Exactly like you were saying before. You're not saying, I love you for that response back. You're saying I love you because the place in which you are, the place in which you sit from your core, has that expression to give without any expectation back. So, and I always try to tell people there's no such thing as an awkward silence. Yeah. Either you say what you have to say or there's nothing that needs to be said. Right. And a lot of this constantly feeling like something has to be said, that we have to constantly make noise, is because there constantly is noise. Yeah. And I get that too. And I think those are just reflections of the anxieties that are constantly building upon each other because we don't go through these practices of silence.
Absolutely. And I think, I think you and I have talked a little bit before, just in casual conversation about suffering. Like suffering is necessary until it's not. Right? The awkwardness in silence is necessary until it's not. The discomfort is necessary until it's not. Yeah. Until you understand that, right? Like, why should I feel awkward about this? Right. They're trying to figure out what to say, or again, like don't say anything if it's not going to make the situation better. Mm-hmm. Like we can sit here and be completely quiet unless one of us has something to say that's going to improve upon the situation. Right. And the more you delve into silence and the more you appreciate the utter nothingness of just being sometimes, once you truly understand how amazing that can be, all of a sudden talking becomes secondary. And you're like, I'm not going to go talk to people because I don't know anybody that's going to have something to offer that's better than what I'm experiencing right now.
That's a great point, man, because communication is, there's more than one way to do that. People talk about body language. People talk about, even they talk about, vibes or auras or energies that people feel and can like sync up with, and these are all true in of themselves. And so I think that's a great point. And you can recognize, what the further I get into my place of calm, to my need, to not feel like I need to say anything, to feel like I don't need to react to things. I see that in other people. I see it in other people. I feel it in other people. And more importantly, I feel when that's not the case. Yeah. I can recognize someone's, what they talk about, what they're addicted to. Yeah. You know what I mean? What they respond poorly to. Like, I hear you. Yeah. I hear you loud and clear. Yeah. And sometimes if, because I would like to think that people want to be better, you know, and if there's an opportunity for them to learn, or me to learn, or both to learn, then I will take that step. But like you said, sometimes people, it's not worth the comment.
Yeah.
It's not worth the comment. So, and that's just another thing that comes with the practice. And I'm very young in the practice, even if it has been, you know, a few years, and even if it has been here, you know, here and there, here and there, here and there. I'm still super young in the practice, but even with that little awareness, all the things that come along with it, you know, not just self, but like still in connecting, all the things that you're hoping to come from it, they exist.
Yeah.
You know, they exist, and that's awesome to see. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think it's ironic though that our episode about silence was probably one of the fucking longest. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, it's time and place for it. You know, I think if people are tuning in, they would appreciate to hear us talk.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna practice silence now for 40 minutes. Just be real awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Just 40 minutes of awkward silence. That'll be our next episode. 40 minutes of awkward silence.
Damn. All right, man. Well, apparently this is where we end.
It feels like a good spot, man. It feels like a good place. And I think I know I certainly have some plans for the day to appreciate a few moments of silence here and there. And just,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably get in some silence before I hit the station in another hour and a half, couple hours or so.
Yeah. 2 to 6 o'clock, it's all noise for you.
All constant noise, and I'm the only one making it.
Yeah.
But
have to listen.
Did you get in your shout outs earlier? The ones at least that you needed to?
I did not.
Okay.
Good call. So we'll cap this off with our shout outs to our sponsors, the Farm to Table Company. They are providing an interface for local farmers to provide products directly to local clients. So if you need something, if you're looking for locally grown and sourced meat, eggs, vegetables, they have it all on there. Focus mostly around the Syracuse area in northern New York. Check it out, guys. I would love to see this grow. I know they would love to see it grow as well. The Farm to Table Company, if you'd like to check out their website, F2TCO.com, Farm to Table Company. Awesome. And then I would always love to give a shout out to Tunes 92.5, man. Tim Sweeney over there, again, always does awesome stuff for the community, guys. If you're going to turn on the radio at some point today, if you want to listen in live, tunes925live.com, right?
Tunes925live.com. You can actually stream it right to your phone, your computer at home, computer at work. And not only that, but there's a message board on there that you could actually text to whoever's in the station. And like I said, like he mentioned, I'll be there every day, 5 days a week from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Stop by, say what up, let me know what you want to hear. That's just how it works. So I appreciate that. Big shout out to Tunes. Big shout out to American Top Team, who certainly let us utilize the space. And not only that, but encourages all these connections that we make. Encourages all these conversations. Yeah. And that's just aside from what they do with mixed martial arts and boxing and kids wrestling and all of these other things too within the community. So
awesome, man. Yeah. So community focused, awesome companies we have right here in Watertown, man. Thank you guys so much. You're as much part of the community as everything. You guys just tuning in, listening to us, giving us a platform to have these conversations. For those of you who tuned in live today, shared some comments with us and stuff, thank you so much. If you guys are listening on YouTube, please, if you like what we have to say, throw us a like. If you don't, throw us a comment. Subscribe, share it out. We'd love to reach more people and have more conversations with as many people as we can.
Absolutely. Thank you again. We'll catch you next time.
Until next time.